Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comics review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. This is our big show where we show you some of the biggest and best books that are coming out this week to your local comic book store. Or if you shop with us at Infinity Flux, you can come here and get them. Or you can head over to infinityflux.net right now where these books are available for purchase while supplies last. So watch our show, get a better idea of what to expect, and then go over there, clickety-clack. Get yourself some comics.
Yeah, that's what you have to say. Clickety clack while you're clicking.
Yeah, everybody knows what.
Yeah,
that you have to do that. You have to make the sound effects.
Right.
But this is a great week of books. We've got DC coming in strong. It's been a while since they've had a lot of stuff, but I think we are just getting into a new season of DC.
For sure, absolutely.
I am so excited about. So let's get into this week's. And I know you have a very big one to start with.
Yep, we are going to start with Absolute Power Ground Zero. This is a one-shot, and this is where the Absolute Power event starts. So if you want to read that event, definitely grab this book because in this one, all the pieces are getting put into place. Not a lot of action in this. This is more of a setup issue. But like Mark Waid told us on that retailer call we were on with him about a month ago now, he said that they're setting up things in here so that when Absolute Power #1 comes out next week, they can just hit the ground running. Everything's in place, and they can just go. So in this one, this book is broken up into 3 stages. 3 different chapters, each one done by a different creative team. The first one is written by Nicole Maynes and Mark Waid. The art is by Skylar Patridge, and Amanda Waller instructs Dreamer to go capture another character with abilities. I don't want to tell you which character it is, but it will be very interesting to see how Amanda Waller plans on using that character to suit her ends. Dreamer doesn't really want to do it, but she doesn't really have much of a choice. And I just thought, I was like, oh, I wonder what she's going to do with that character. The second stage is written by Chip Zdarsky and Mark Waid, and the art is by V.Ken Marion. And this one sees Waller recruiting another character.
I really like this. This was really interesting.
Yeah, and I don't want to say what character that is, because if you know who it is, it might kind of spoil how she plans on bringing Failsafe back online. But it was also kind of a deep cut character. I didn't really know who that was. I had to go read about them a little bit. But she recruits this other character to help her basically bring back Failsafe. We saw what happened to Failsafe at the end of the Dark Prison story arc over in Batman, but now Failsafe is back. We know Failsafe is going to be part of Waller's plan going forward. And then stage 3 is written by Joshua Williamson and Mark Waid, and the art is by Gleb Melnikov. And this immediately follows the end of House of Brainiac. So if you get this and the end of House of Brainiac, which we'll talk about later, read the end of House of Brainiac first, and then read this. And it's all about the Brainiac Queen and what Amanda Waller has to do to bring the Brainiac Queen into the fold as well, so that she can do everything she wants to do.
That's something I didn't think about, but it was like, oh yeah, why would the Brainiac Queen work with Amanda Waller? Yeah. And you see how Amanda Waller's kind of manipulation skills come into, being able to basically like control such a powerful being. Yeah. And once again, it's a pretty kind of messed up way of doing it.
Right.
Kind of a little bit of psychologicalness.
Something that only Amanda Waller could do, I think.
Yeah.
But so once you're done reading this, all the pieces are in place, and then next week when Absolute Power #1 comes out, everything's just going to hit the fan almost immediately. So yeah, but it all starts right here. So definitely check this out. So we have our A cover right here, and then we got some cool variants. We've got the Gleb Melnikov variant. So he did one of the chapter. He did the Waller Queen Brainiac chapter in that. We have this Michael Janin cover with Failsafe. We have this really nice John Timms connecting variant. This is going to connect. Yeah, this is going to connect with a whole bunch of other parts and tie-ins to Absolute Power. And I'm pretty sure this is the one I pre-ordered. This is the Virgin foil version of the A cover. You can see right there. And the nice foil. Yeah, you can see the nice foil in the mirror there. Or the screen, or the painting, or whatever it's supposed to be. But yeah, very cool. I'm very, very excited for this event, especially after reading this. It's like, can't wait for next issue.
Yeah, this is a great catch-up, too, if maybe you're reading Batman but not reading Superman, you're reading Superman, not Batman, and everything. This gets you caught up with, like, here's going to be some of your key players on the villain side of this.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, first up for me is Zatanna. Bring Down the House #1. This is a new DC Black Label book, which I love, especially this size. The magazine format's cool, but this just, this is a comic size,
Yeah.
and that's awesome. So this is by Mariko Tamaki, and the art is by Javier Rodriguez. And I love Zatanna, so I was a little nervous getting into this because, you want your characters to be done well, and this is awesome. So, in this version, this is not in any straightforward continuity.
Right.
Now, in this one, they do mention the Justice League off a little bit, but for this, don't worry about any kind of already set up continuity, because in this, we begin with Zatanna as a child, and she's kind of doing magic tricks for her friends, but they're just like little sleight of hand things. She's not like great at it. She's probably better than I would be at it, but her friends make fun of her. And then she goes to her dad, who is the magician Zatara, who, of course, is like one of the most powerful magicians of all time. And she says, I want you to finally teach me some real magic. Well, maybe she didn't wish she said that, because what happens will haunt her for the rest of her life, it seems.
We actually don't really know. Like, there's a mystery in this book of what happened in her childhood.
Yeah.
We don't really have the full details of that yet. I'm sure we'll learn.
We think also like one thing happened, but then what a character says later, you go, oh, well, how did that also happen?
You're right.
But we kind of jump forward. Now Zatanna is living in Las Vegas. She's, a young adult now. She lives in her apartment. She's got her pet rabbits that she does magic tricks with, everything. She goes for runs out in the desert, getting ready for her show. But there's some weird stuff going on along the way that we're still trying to figure out. But I love this because, I went to Las Vegas recently. This really captures the color and like the crowds of Vegas in a really cool way. She now works at a place called the Golden Dice Casino, which is not the nicest casino.
Yeah.
It's a mid-tier casino, and she does a show there for free. And she seems fine doing that, but not pulling huge crowds because she's not doing real magic.
Right, she's doing tricks.
She's doing tricks. She's doing card tricks. She's doing pretty basic stuff, and especially in a world where I think people even know she can do real magic because, they said the Justice League has come knocking on her door and she's turned them away. So clearly they know there's more to her, probably because of who her dad was. Yeah. But she's fine with this, performing these kind of cheap shows every night. But it's, it's a living for the most part. But something weird starts happening where a mysterious woman starts showing up to all of her shows. Always looking a little bit different, always in dark sunglasses. And this is kind of a mystery that is going to possibly propel Zatanna to have to retake up her real magic to combat something that is kind of right there on the edges. There's some action towards the end of this. I don't want to give away too much, but it does start the story rolling. But I love the setup of this. I love kind of her kind of just average life as a magician in Vegas and stuff, and with different people there, and her friends that also work in the casinos and everything.
She's very particular to say that she does tricks, not magic.
Yeah.
She will not say that she is a magician. She will not say that she does magic. She says she does tricks. And it all has to do with this something that happened to her when she was a kid, and we don't know what that is yet.
Yes.
But we will.
So the art is by the cover artist right here, Javier Rodriguez. It is very colorful. It's very stylized, but not to the point of jarring or you can't follow it. It just has some really cool page layouts. I really like how they draw Zatanna in here.
Yeah.
She's very kind of a believable looking character. And I can't wait for the next one of this. I think it's super cool.
It was really good. Yeah.
I think, this is going to go towards the top of my list of favorite Black Label books from DC. So, it's a Black Label, and it's, I guess, mature storytelling to some extent. But I wouldn't say it's like the most Black Label of Black Label books.
Well, I just kind of thought the only Black Label thing about it is that it's not in continuity with anything else.
Right.
It's not really mature themed or anything like that. It's pretty tame, except it's just not in continuity. That's it.
Right. And so I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So if you want to check it out, there is your A cover. And because I'm such a big Zatanna fan, I'm getting most of these covers. So here is your Art Germ cover. which is very cool. Like, I want her to see her back on the Justice League. I want her in also main continuity because I think
We're going to
she's
see her with Superman in Absolute Power.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've got this Jorge Jimenez cover. She looks way more excited to be on stage on these covers than she does in the book. We've got a foil version of the Art Germ cover. We've got a blank sketch variant. And we have this 1 in 25 Martinez variant that we're selling for $14.99.
Well, we got another big one this week, Blood Hunt number 4. This is the last issue of the main series, and it's hard to talk too much about this because I'll spoil it. We are starting to get answers to some of the questions that we've had for a while. So, for example, we learn in this issue why has Blade been doing all of this stuff in the first place with him. We learn what he wants with that ancient temple that he sent Black Panther to find in Wakanda that has now been dropped in the middle of Central Park. We get answers to all of that stuff. We also see Doctor Strange and Clea reaching out to somebody to get help dealing with the Dark Force. And
yeah, I wouldn't give away what it is, but it makes me really excited for what's going to happen there.
And the person they go to says that they will help, but it is going to come with a price, with a pretty high price. We see what Hunter's Moon and Tigra are up to. They sneak into Asgard to do, for a very specific reason. I won't tell you what, but they bring another character with them that I never would have guessed, but it totally makes sense why they brought that character.
It's kind of you have to think about the character for a second and kind of remember a character's origin and stuff. And
right.
Like, oh, yeah.
When I saw that character, I was like, oh, it's because of blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So that part is really cool. We do see the return of a character that we haven't seen in a while. So that part was really cool. This was just a really good issue. And of course, everything is leading to a big showdown between the good guys and the bad guys, basically. This was just really cool. Just that we're getting answers now and things are starting to click. Things are starting to make sense. And I loved it. I thought this was great. I can't wait to see how it all shakes out in the next issue. Now, we have the regular version here, and just like all the other ones, there is a red band version. And I want to tell you about this. So the red band version has two-page spreads that the regular version does not have. So that's 4 extra pages in total. Doesn't really, change the story at all. It just really enhances, especially one thing in the book. There's one of the 2-page spreads really enhances something that happens.
Yeah, there's also additional dialogue in it that I feel like I'm really glad I read that part of it because it explained in a little bit more detail something that was going on.
Yeah. Now I didn't really notice any panels that were different. There weren't like any like bloody panels or anything like that. There were some word balloons moved around here and there, but the story is still the same. But in this one, you get two-page spreads.
And the second one's just cool.
Yeah, the second one's awesome. So if you're wondering which one to get, I would recommend the red band just because of those extra pages. But so that is one of our variants. So we have the red band version. We've got some other variants too. We have the Tony Daniel variant. All of these variants, all of these open order variants are variants of the regular version, not the red band. So there's the Tony Daniel one. We have a Peach Momoko cover. We have the Fangs variant, this time with Vision. And then we have this 1 in 25 Cola variant. Now this variant, we're selling this one for just under $111. Now, this variant is a variant to the red band version. You can see the red band right there, but this is the only red band variant. But yeah, so
those have been really hot as their homages to old like EC horror and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that one looks great. So an excellent issue of Blood Hunt, and I can't wait to see how it all ends.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm constantly waiting for them to drop the ball, but I'm not used to enjoying a Marvel event from like start to finish as much as I'm enjoying this one and how it constantly is surprising me.
Yeah. Marvel has had trouble in the past sticking the landing with these big events, but so far, so good. They're still on track, and I'm loving it. There are also 4 tie-ins that come out this week that we will be talking about a little bit later.
Yep. Next up for me, I've got Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider number 2. Another one of my favorite characters just in comics is Ghost Spider, and I am really loving the direction of this series. So, in this, Gwen has shown up in the 616 universe because of the TVA, but she's not allowed to don her costume, do any heroing whatsoever. But of course, she did not do that in the last one because she ended up in a fight with a very classic looking Kraven the Hunter in like his original clothes. And she got thrown off of the bridge that the 616 Gwen Stacy died off of. So already we got some really interesting mirroring stuff going on there. Well, in this one, she has woken up and she's surrounded by Peter, Miles, and Cindy Moon. And they're like, hey, we're really glad you're alive. We actually just found you on the shore, but why didn't you tell us you were here? And she makes up this crazy excuse, and they're like, we know you're lying to us. But this really bothers them that they felt she was comfortable enough with them to, be honest and everything. And they kind of set that to the side. They're like, okay, but we need to figure out this Kraven thing, because Kraven stabbed her with a knife, and it's a whole ordeal. Gwen is recovering, but slowly, but her suit's helping along with that. But as Peter and Miles and all of them go to try to investigate what's going on, of course Gwen is going to go do it on her own as well, which leads to some very interesting things. She investigates what is up with this Kraven, how is this even possible, and something arrives on her doorstep that doesn't know who it's from, but might lead her down the path to understanding a little bit more of what's going on. So I don't want to give it away. There is more action in this. There's some twists and turns, and a pretty cool reveal at the end. So definitely check this one out. This has been really fun so far. The art is great. I love seeing, Peter and Miles and Cindy all in this, and there's some action scenes. Just really, really cool. So highly recommend this one. It's another one that I'm so glad I'm enjoying. You just love when a character you like is in a good book.
Yeah.
That's how Superman is right now.
Right,
it's like,
right.
It just feels good.
Yeah.
So there is our A cover, the great Mark Brooks A covers, which I'm so happy he's doing. We've got this Megan Hetrick variant. We've got this really cool Stephanie Hans variant, which is the black suit variant. Even though Gwen does have her own version of her Venomized version.
I guess she could make it. She could probably make it look like that if she wanted, right?
Here is the Bootylicious Villalobos variant, which I do really love this one. We've got a 1 in 25 Greg Land variant. We're selling for it $39.99, or as you would say, just under $40.
Right.
And we've also got a 1 in 50 Villalobos variant we're selling for just under $50.
It gives the illusion that it's inexpensive.
Okay, QVC.
Right. All right, so next up we have Rook Exodus number 3, and this is probably my favorite of the 3 issues so far because we see some really cool stuff in here. So in the issue, Rook and Direwolf, they travel to this place called the Oasis, which used to be this big hydroelectric dam, but now it's kind of a haven for some of the survivors that are still on the planet Exodus. And they're there because they want to use this piece of broadcasting technology called the grid, because they want to reach out to other wardens to have them come join them in what it is that they're trying to do. And when they reach out to these other wardens, they and we, the readers, see for the first time 13 other wardens that we've never seen before. I didn't even know there were that many. But we see just in like little panels.
Rook didn't know there was that many either.
Yeah, I think he seemed
surprised.
really so we don't get a lot about them yet, but we see like in different panels like the I don't remember their names, but like the fox and the stag and the one that's the ram and the jackrabbit. There's all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah, and they all have these helmets and they're with their animals and they're kind of like in these kind of little like action scenes.
Yeah.
And it just looks so awesome. I love it.
You're like, I want a book about every single one of these
I want
people.
each one of these characters to have their own book. I want action figures. I want video games, all that stuff. And we also meet the warden of the Oasis, who's running that place that they're in. His name is Carapace, and he is the warden of turtles, I guess, or maybe tortoises. And there's some really cool imagery of these giant turtles with these big guns on their back. You can actually see it like right here. That's a big old turtle with big old cannons on its shell. just the imagery alone, just the
Yeah.
the looking at these characters with these cool looking helmets that kind of look like these animals.
They're so like over the top, like cinematic, but
Yeah.
like super high budget
Yeah,
cinematic.
it just looks so good. Now, while they're on this, I refer to it in my notes as a call. While they're on this call with these other wardens, maybe not everyone on that call they want them they want on there, but and this may all come back to bite them in the butt because now somebody else is on that call that's like, oh, I know where you are now, and it's going to lead into just all kinds of stuff. But it's so cool. There's cool. We see some cool like vehicles and technology and just everything about this. The whole aesthetic of this book is absolutely phenomenal. The artwork is great. And just seeing all these other wardens that we didn't even know existed. It's like, when are we going to get that one in the book? And I already have my favorites. Oh, I like that one and this one over here, even though I know nothing about them. Hopefully we get to see them all because they all look so cool.
Yeah, I can see those all being like kind of their own story arcs.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, he's going to team up with this one for a while and this one for a while.
Like old school, like Marvel team up, Rook and the Fox one, or the Ram, or the Stag, or whatever. Like all those guys would be great.
There's another bear that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure. So just an awesome book. If you got the first 2 issues and you like them, please don't miss issue 3 because, like I said, this is my favorite of them all so far. So there is our A cover, and then we have this Jason Fabok doing this one too, or is that Ivan Rice is doing these like headshot ones.
Yeah, so they go to a place called Oasis, and you might say there's like a big like wall, like a wonder wall.
Oh yeah, right
there. Yeah.
And these wardens are going to be the one that saves them.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Oh, I get this book now.
Yeah.
No, but I will say, one of the best books on the stand.
Absolutely. I loved it.
There's we have our favorites here, but definitely the all the Ghost Machine universe stuff. It's just hitting higher than a lot of other
books. One of those books that when I turned the page and saw something, it's one of those where I put the book down and was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool, and then went back to reading.
Yeah, and just Fabok's art.
Yeah.
Especially there's one scene that's like not even a character, it's a vehicle.
Yeah.
It's like, dang, that looks like an 80s playset.
That's right.
For
That's what I thought too. I was like, I want the
opens up and you can play with your fingers in it. Yeah, it's just awesome.
It's awesome.
Okay, next up, I've got our next, or I guess one of our next Blood Hunt tie-ins. This one is another one of our one-shots for X-Men. This is X-Men Blood Hunt Magik #1. And this has been one of my favorites so far as a kind of a one-and-done story. It's super cool. This is by Ashley Allen and Jesus Hervez. And in this, Magik, which it does refer to, like, this takes place after the events of
the Fall of Krakoa.
Fall of Krakoa and all of that. It seems like a lot of the mutants are kind of like taking a step back and figuring out what am I doing here type thing. And Magik, Ileana Rasputin, has done that as well as she's returned home to Siberia. And of course, this is when the Dark Force comes over and the Blood Hunt stuff begins. And the Siberia is also not safe from this. We see kind of what the vampires there are doing, which they're definitely, they remind me a little bit more of like, I don't know, they're just a little tougher vampires there. They're a little bit, cold weather vampires. Right. That they are actually kind of rounding up the people from Ileana's village and kind of playing a game with them, a kind of a cat and mouse, lets them out in the woods and they go and hunt them down and everything. Well, Ileana gets there, realizes what's going on, of course is not afraid of these people at all, and decides to get herself caught so she can help save everybody from within. We also meet the leader of this vampire kind of group that's there, may have ties to a childhood story that Ileana's, I believe, father told her when she was little. That I think actually kind of crafts a very interesting new villain that I could see maybe them using later as a key vampire player.
Well, maybe not.
Maybe.
Yeah,
but,
maybe.
I mean, you never know in comics. But I thought that was a really cool character, and it just kind of, I don't know, it had a really good setup with this story and fleshing out. It felt like a whole story in one. But it's really cool to see her powers up against vampires and her just using her powers in interesting ways. Her ways of like cutting through like realities and building up momentum as she like tracks down vampires and stuff. Just really, really cool. So this is, been one of my favorite ones. I think the art is awesome. Just the tone, it's very cold and interesting. So I'm really excited to see her go off from this into she's in what's the next X-Men book?
I think she's in.
She's the one.
She's in the Gail Simone book. Uncanny. No, she's an X-Men.
Yeah,
she's in the Jed McKay one.
The
X-Men.
regular one.
Yeah.
So I love Magik right now, and this is a great entry for Magik.
We'll see her again in 2 weeks on July 10th, I believe. That's the book that she's in.
Okay,
yeah.
Awesome. So very, very cool one here. That is our A cover. Then we also have a Peach Momoko variant with a little bit more of her classic costume.
Well, next for me is Grommets number 2, and I absolutely love this series so far. This, it's a slice of life book. Like I said, the last issue, no superheroes, no crime, no supernatural, no horror, no nothing. It's just these 2 kids skating in California in the mid 80s. And in this one, it's just another day in the life of Rick and Brian going out skating around. I love there's a great panel near the very beginning where Rick, he gets up in the morning, he gets his skateboard, he's heading out, and his parents are out there, and he's like, all right, guys, I'll see you later. And his mom says, when will you be home? And he says, whenever. And she's like, all right, have fun. And I was like, man, that's exactly how it was in the 80s. Our parents didn't know where we were in the 80s, and it was awesome. I would freak out now, though, if I didn't know where my son was. But we also, in this book, meet the Jens. And it's these 3 girls right here who are also skaters, and they're all named Jen. There's Gen 1, Gen 2, and the Jen with 2 N's, which is how they describe it. Before they go skating, they eat lunch at Taco Bell, which is really cool because it's like the old school 80s Taco Bell.
With the shapes and stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, you actually like eat inside. Well, I mean, you can still do that now, but like it's more of a big restaurant inside. But then after the lunch, the 5 of them go skating in a nearby parking garage, but they're confronted by a security guard there. And we see that Gen 2 maybe kind of has a bit of a mean streak in her, and it kind of shakes up Rick a little bit. Like, I mean, you'd have to see it to see what I mean. But just another really fun book of Rick and Brian in the summer, in the 80s, skateboarding with their new friends, the Gens. And it's just really fun. The artwork is great. The colors are bright. Everything about it is just wonderful. I had such a great time reading this book. So if you're looking for something that's a little bit of a change of pace, I would highly recommend this for sure. So we have our A cover right here, and then we have a 1 in 10 Regal variant that we're selling for $24.99.
And next up, I've got a Void Rivals number 10. This is going to be a little hard to talk about because this is probably one of the biggest issues of Void Rivals so far, and a really big issue just for the Energon universe as a whole. So, I mean, it's not a spoiler to say, because I think it was in the solicitation, that Energon comes to Void Rivals in this one. It's kind of been, we've had Jetfire in the beginning, we've had stuff sprinkled throughout. Especially
Springer was in number 9.
Yeah. But this really starts answering a lot of questions. Now, it raises a bunch, but it's definitely brought up a lot of these things. So we get answers about the sacred ring that they live on, maybe what its purpose is. Also, I don't even want to say about the characters that live on the ring, but there's something about them that is very Energon focused, or kind of a relationship they have to Energon that maybe we didn't know before. It's maybe been staring us in the face the whole time.
Right.
So it's really cool to see. I mean, you can see on the cover something that happens to Solila. She's been pretty heavily injured, and Energon might have something to help her with. Just really, really cool. And even there's more to come. When Springer is kind of explaining some things, he gets interrupted. And it looks like we're going to be getting a big fight. But up until that point, answers galore, which I thought was awesome. And I can't wait for more. Because, I mean, Void Rivals, once again, we always say don't sleep on it, because this is just as equally good as all of the other Energon Universe books, and is doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes heavy lifting. So that is Void Rivals number 10. We've got some cool variants for this. We've got a Corey Walker variant, which I love, original Invincible artist. We've got a 1 in 10 Arujo variant we're selling for $6.99. It's kind of hard to hide the inner John on when the cover's like
Right.
this. We have a 1 in 25 Takara variant. We're selling for $14.99.
Well, next for me is Hellverine #2, and this is hot off the heels of my and Andy's interview with Benjamin Percy last Friday. It was a lot of fun. We uploaded it to YouTube, so if you haven't seen that yet, go check it out. But in this issue, we saw at the end of last issue Hellverine's true identity. I won't tell you who it is, just in case you don't know. But it was kind of like a bit of a head scratcher. Like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
Well, the very first couple pages in this issue explain it all. This is how it's possible. This is how it happened. That kind of thing. And I really liked that. It made me feel better about. I didn't have to try to rationalize anymore. We also see Wolverine reluctantly working with Project Hellfire to go after the Hellfire-powered soldiers that they created in the previous issue, and Wolverine does come into confrontation with one of them, and then while all of that's going on, Hellverine is still traveling around the country, taking out bad people, doing bad things, as Hellverine does. And there's a little bit more to it, but I don't want to spoil it. But just another, really cool issue of Hellverine. I like that Hellverine is now, Hellverine is now a character in the present day Marvel instead of just something that happened in a flashback. It's really cool to see, and I'm super eager to see where it goes from here. So we have our A cover right here, and then we got a really cool Tony Daniel variant.
Yeah.
And then we have this 1 in 25 Davila variant that we're selling for $29.99.
Just under $30.
Just under $30.
Yeah, go watch that interview. Benjamin Percy was great.
Yeah.
Just so nice and very open about his process and it's the characters and his, him writing with Hellverine and everything. And he might have dropped a couple little hints about some future stuff as well.
Yeah.
So you don't want to miss that.
Yep.
Okay, next up for me is a new Image book called Self-Help. Now, this is the B cover for it. We are already out of the A cover. So, like we said at the beginning, while supplies last, you might want to grab this. This is written by Owen King and Jesse Kellerman with art by Mariana Ignazi. And this is really interesting. So this is, what do you call a book that just doesn't have any fantasy or magic or so? It's just, I think of slice of life, but like,
I mean, this one kind of gave me vibes. I haven't read it, but the solicitation gave me slight crime noir vibes,
Yeah.
a little bit.
Something like that. So, we've got some characters in this. We have a character named Jerry Hauser. He's kind of a down on his luck rideshare driver. I mean, every time he looks at his phone, his screen's cracked, which I just think is just a fun little detail. And he definitely has had a hard past because he has to watch his daughter grow up from afar. Not in like a creepy way, but he's just like, looks like you're doing well.
Yeah.
And stuff like you can tell there's a lot of history that we don't get quite into yet, but we may get into later. But he just picks up passengers all the time. There's another character named Darren Hart, who is a big motivational speaker. He's, one of your big self-help gurus. He goes on these tours. He's got, thousands of people in the audience crying and stuff, and he's picking them out and telling them only you can help you, and so he's got all this stuff. But we see also a little bit behind the scenes, and he's kind of just a trash person. Like, big shocker. But he kind of orders his assistant around to do everything, and he doesn't really care about the people that he's helping. He kind of makes fun of them or says, like, kind of laughs at their problems. But meanwhile, Jerry Hauser, while he's doing his rideshare, everyone's like, you look just like that Darren Hart person, like almost identical to him. So he's having to deal with this, you look just like this guy type thing, and he's kind of over it. He even like plays it up a little bit, and someone runs over. It's like, "Are you Darren Hart?" He's like, "Yeah, I am." And he's like, "Remember what I told you?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm trying," and stuff. It's really funny, but through some turn of events, Darren Hart, the motivational speaker, is supposed to be somewhere. His car breaks down, and he's got to call a ride. And what do you know? It's Jerry Hauser, and it looks like some stuff's going to go down where Jerry might have found a way to turn his luck around in a not great way. There might be some ill,
Not good intentions,
not
basically.
good intentions, and maybe someone falls down a hill.
Oh,
So I thought it was really cool. It's a great setup for this story. I thought the characters were really interesting. The art was great. So it's just a really cool, if you're kind of tired of the superheroes and all that kind of stuff, check this out. I think it's a really strong start. It was a easy read in a way of it never felt like a slog to get through, and I feel like that's a big compliment in
yeah,
comics.
yeah.
So this is the B cover for Self Help. So check it out. It sounds like something you might like.
Next up, Feral number 4. And in this one, the cats have finally made it home, but it's been completely abandoned. And they search for food, and they somehow they turn on the TV and they become enamored by. They call it the box on the wall.
Me too.
Right. But while the cats are talking, we can hear what the TV is saying in the background because we see what the cats are saying, but then what the TV is saying is like in captions at the top of the panel. And the word balloons kind of overlap it a little bit, so it's supposed to be sort of in the background. But we can see a lot of what is being said on the TV, and through that, we learn a little bit more about this virus that's going around and how it's affecting animals and things like that. And so the cats are there, they're looking for food, they're hungry, but there's something in the basement that doesn't sound very nice. And they might have to, end up dealing with that. So even though they're home, they are not home free just yet. There is still more stuff that they're gonna have to deal with. But just another good issue of Feral. The artwork obviously is fantastic. So don't miss this if you've been checking out the series. There's our A cover right there. We have this really awesome 28 Days Later homage cover. We have this 1 in 10 Forstner variant that we're selling for $9.99. And then there's a 1 in 25 Meberson variant that we're selling for $34.99. That's very sweet.
Except for the eye.
Well, except for that, yeah.
And we know what that means.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, we're going to take you on our little Superman jaunt through kind of the reading order, which will be this issue of Action Comics 1066, then Superman with 15.
Yep.
So this is parts 5 and 6 of House of Brainiac, and then you can go straight into Absolute Power, Ground Zero.
Yeah. I feel like maybe Action Comics was delayed a week because it's super weird that parts 5 and 6 came out the same day.
So, but I do like they put it at the top so you know what order to read them in.
Yep.
But for that Brainiac Queen story, I feel like to get the most impact out of it, reading these two and then that would be the best. But can't say too much about this issue because it's, we are leading towards the end of the story. Superman, of course, seems like all hope is lost as he is overwhelmed by Brainiac's forces. What happened to the Zarnians, you really saw Brainiac's power. There's overwhelming numbers, but Superman does have his family with him.
Yep.
And let me say, there's a 2-page spread of Connor Kent just being awesome.
Connor Kent doing Connor Kent things.
I just love that he's a part of this. I feel like he gets kind of, put in the back seat for a while, but he is, I love seeing Superman call out to different members of his family and be like, Connor, go do this. Or it's like, yes, he trusts all of his family with these big, important things. But the other big thing that happens in here is with Lana Luthor and her history, why Brainiac is so interested in her, and I feel like we kind of learn in this issue where Lex truly stands on a lot of these things. The kind of truth about, has he been lying about this? Does he care about her? All of that starts to make more sense as we go into here. Plus, Lex has a plan for Brainiac that is pretty deadly for him as well. So some really cool visuals, plus the backup story kind of explores more of Lana Luthor's time with Brainiac and what all that means, and kind of rounds out the story a little bit. But that'll all lead into yours. So let me show you these variants. We have this Jorge Jimenez variant, very cool. We've got this Paulo Rivera cover with the Brainiac Queen. We've got this Betsy Cola variant with Natasha Irons. And this one's super cool. This is a 1 in 25 Mark Spears variant. We're selling for $49.99 with Lobo.
The main man.
And Lobo's great in this. I feel like he really had I don't know, a story arc in this storyline. And it's cool to see him standing side by side with Superman.
Yeah. I really want a Lobo series after all this.
Yes.
You know?
They've done a lot of work building Lobo up.
Yeah. So here, I'll give you that one too.
Yep.
And then Superman number 15 is the last part of House of Brainiac. And again, it's super weird that both of them came out at the same time, but read part 5, then read part 6. And like Andy said, I can't really say much about this because this is the end of the story, and saying anything would be spoiling everything. But it is the big final showdown between Brainiac and Brainiac's army and the Brainiac Queen and Superman and Lobo and the Superman family. It's like taking your action figures and just banging them together. That's what this is like. I blended my notes for Action Comics and this because they're so closely related. I will say that in this issue, we do get some very minor hints dropped about some future stories that are going to be coming for Superman. It reminded me of the
DC universe as a whole.
Yeah, for sure. And it kind of reminded me of I think it was last year's Timeless or maybe the year before, where Kang talked about the Tribulation events. It was kind of like that, where Brainiac says that he's seen the future and he's seen this and this and this. It was like, what is all that? That sounds really cool.
They sound like either story arcs or events.
Right.
They have that kind of grandiose titles to them.
It made me very excited. And the very last page of this issue,
it's like literally you finish the story and it's like, and meanwhile, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, because like the story sort of wraps up, but then you turn the page thinking it's going to be an ad at the back. It's like, oh no, it's almost like a post-credit scene.
Yes.
And it's like, holy cow, that's awesome. I want to know more about that. I don't know what it's going to be, when it's going to come, anything about it.
It does say fall.
Oh, fall. Okay.
Yeah.
So it made me very, very excited. So you'll see what I mean when you see it. And the end of this, though, the ending of the House of Brainiac story that we see in this leads right into Absolute Power Ground Zero. So yeah, like we said, if you get all of this stuff this week, definitely finish up House of Brainiac before you read Absolute Power Ground Zero, because it all just flows together in that order. So we have our A cover right here, and then we have this really nice Pride variant by Angel Solorzano.
Next up, I've got Ultimate Black Panther number 5, and this one gives us a lot of answers as well. It gives us maybe
some more questions, but
but more explained about some stuff. So we finally get back to that weird rock that Storm and Killmonger took T'Challa to see. Basically like, you think you know everything about Wakanda and Africa, but clearly you don't know some of the biggest parts of it. And then we kind of like deviated from that for a while. They got distracted, and we were back to that as Shuri and the rest of them are doing tests on this thing. And I don't want to say what it is, and we still don't know 100% we don't have a name for it. I feel like maybe when we get a name, it will either be familiar or something. But let's just say it has a close tie with Vibranium. It's kind of the sibling of Vibranium. But Khonshu, of course, is not done wreaking havoc across Africa and Wakanda as he sends more minions against Black Panther and everyone. And it seems like with this new, we know there's a tease in one of the upcoming issues about Black Panther kind of harnesses a new material or whatever. I'm thinking it's this rock that they have, but it has certain abilities. And I think we'll be seeing some ramifications of those abilities going forward to some of the people that happens to in this. So we get some cool backstory on a lot of the stuff, and it ends with a pretty big action scene. So really like this issue of Ultimate Black Panther. And being 5, I think 6 will probably be the end of our first story arc.
Right.
And I am guessing big stuff happening in there. So that is our A cover. We also have this Clayton Crane variant.
That's really nice.
Yeah, that Killmonger is cool. We've got this Boss Logic variant. And we have this 1 in 25 Clark variant we're selling for just under $24. And once again, there's something about how they're positioning Black Panther.
Mhm.
It's very Doctor Strange-like.
Very curious indeed.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, next I've got the Thanos Annual, and this is the first part of the Thaniel, right? This is the first part of the Infinity Watch story that is going to be told across several different annuals over the course of the summer. I want to say part 2 is in the Amazing Spider-Man Annual, which I think is next week. I might be wrong about that, though. But in this one, we saw at the end of the Thanos miniseries that wrapped up just a little while back, where he's out there looking for Death. We saw that he trapped Death in a new Infinity Stone. That was at the end of that miniseries, but it still doesn't really work for him because Death despises him so much. I just love the idea that, Thanos, in all his power, is in love with a being who can't stand him. I just think that's hilarious. But he thinks that if he finds the other Infinity Stones, that I guess we'll call it the Death Stone, it will work for him. So he tracks the other stones to Earth, but of course we know, we've seen in prior stories that those stones have now become bonded with actual humans. So characters like Star, Quantum, Overtime, the Prince of Power, I think there's a couple more. So he tracks down the stones, but he runs into these humans instead who have the powers of the stones. And it leads them to a big confrontation among each other. But Thanos being Thanos, and he has experience with the Infinity Stones, he knows how to handle them all. And they, like I said, they get into it. I will say there is a backup story in this that is very interesting. It was probably my favorite part of the whole book. Was like, that very last page. I was like, where is this going? I'm very interested and I want to see more. But yeah, this was actually quite good a read. If you read the Infinite Destinies storyline from a year or two ago across those annuals, this is kind of sort of related to all that. But yeah, just more Infinity Stone goodness with Thanos. And again, like I said, that very interesting ending in the backup story I think is really cool. So we have this A cover right here. We got some cool variants. This is Rose Beige.
That one's good.
Yeah, that one's really cool. And then we gotta have the Scotty Young big Marvels, just with a big old dumpy Thanos.
Just like an egg.
Yeah, just like a big old egg. Yeah, with an Infinity Gauntlet.
Well, next up, I've got one that I can't say too much about because it's the fun of reading it. This is the Giant Size Little Marvels #1. This is written by Scotty Young and the art is by Dax Gordine, but you could fool me for the most part thinking the art is Scotty Young. It's a very Scotty Young style. It is, we've got 4 short stories in here, all with that Little Marvels flair. They're all the chibi versions that Scotty Young does of the characters. And they're kind of just really fun. Almost gave me the impression of like newspaper comics or that kind of thing, but just longer. So we've got one where Iron Man and Black Widow, it begins with, it seems like they're finding Captain America frozen in ice, but turns out Captain America just wants to make a origin movie for himself, and he just doesn't like how they're doing it, and they use Iceman to help freeze him every time. It's really cute. We also have one with Iron Man, or Iron Man holds a reality show, who can make him his next big best armor. And you've got Spider-Gwen in there trying to make them, and it's a lot of fun. We have a Rocket Raccoon and Groot story that involves the Collector, and a story involving Doctor Doom and some of the other villains as they question, why is Doom the only one who gets a throne?
Oh, yeah.
So it's just really cute. It's an oversized issue, just a one-shot. So if you like the kind of fun Scotty Young, especially the covers that Scotty Young does, this is like stories with those versions.
I think that's what's really cool.
Yeah, so don't miss this one if you like a little fun mixed in with your Marvel, a little irreverence for the characters. Definitely check this one out, and only the one cover.
Nice. All right, we've got another #1. This is Gatchaman #1. This is written by Cullen Bunn, and the art is by Chris Batista. And this is pretty much straightforward Gatchaman, if you're familiar with that, or maybe Battle of the Planets, if you know them that way. In this issue in particular, there's a scientist named Dr. Muller. He's holding a press conference where he's talking about his research that is going to solve the problem of it's going to eliminate the global energy crisis. But during that press conference, the evil organization known as Galactor, they attack with this big sort of weird biomechanical monster. It's almost like a kaiju that's like tearing up buildings, but there's some technology in it. It's kind of this just weird big monster. So of course the science ninja team Gatchaman springs into action. You know, to try to fight this big monster with all of their vehicles and weapons, but they actually kind of seem to be outmatched by this monster. So I don't really know how they're going to get out of this one. But earlier in the issue, and I don't think we've seen this before, we see Team Gatchaman here training against a team of 5 other young heroes who kind of seem like Gatchaman's second string.
Oh.
And I cannot remember the their leader's name. He's sort of like their Professor X. I don't really remember what his name is, but he tells them, hey, get ready. You know, Gatchaman is in kind of a bad place, and if they don't make it out of this fight, you guys have to be ready to go. So I don't know that we've ever seen like a second team of Gatchaman before. So it was really cool to see that. I was really kind of surprised by that. But yeah, so if you're a fan of that kind of stuff, this is just more of that, just fun action adventure kind of things. So we have our A cover right here, and then we got some cool variants. This is from Sanford Green, your Doom artist on that Doom one shot, which that was really cool, and also the writer of that too. This is Chris Batista and Tom Chu. So Chris Batista, that's your interior artist. So the inside of the book looks pretty much like that. We have a 1 in 10 Delgado variant that we're selling for $9.99. We got a 1 in 20 Deodato variant that we're selling for $29.99. And then I also wanted to let you know about this book called Gatchaman Ken Deathmatch. Now, this is a whole separate book. I didn't get a chance to read this one, and I actually don't remember if this is a one-shot or not. I think it might be a one-shot.
One-shots from in that where they focus on different characters.
Yeah, I believe so. So this is the one about Ken. So if you're really into Gatchaman, pick this up, and also pick this up just for a different story just about Ken himself.
Next up, I've got another great book. This is Redcoat number 3, continuing the Unnamed Universe. So we got both Rook and Redcoat this week, which I'm very excited about. And they're both great. So in this one, we do know that Simon Pure got cut by an axe in one of the previous ones. And it seems to have some magical properties to it. Well, they've come in contact with Benedict Arnold, who may have some answers to that, as he is the other living immortal. And I'll just say we learn that this is the axe that George Washington allegedly chopped down the cherry tree with. But there's more to the story.
Oh, yeah, lots more.
And it's so crazy to take these historical characters and just blow them out of proportion so much. That is really awesome. Plus, turns out Benedict Arnold might have some secrets. He may not be such an up-and-up guy.
That's right.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
But we see a bunch of really cool other like American history things, but through the filter of this Unnamed Universe and Redcoat. And there's more to it, as the cult that originally turned Simon Pure immortal is still on the move, and they make another attack against him and Einstein. So, fantastic issue. So much to unpack in here. I didn't even graze the surface of all the really cool stuff that's in here.
There's a lot of cool stuff to look at in this story.
There's some of those. There's one of those like double page spreads where you really want to like go through and see if you can figure out what all the things are.
Yeah.
But some of them get put into use as well. That it's just so cool. So. That is Redcoat number 3. Continue to love this one as well. All of this Ghost Machine stuff is just so good. Plus, we have this Mahmoud Asrar variant as well.
All right, well, we are not done talking about Absolute Power because we have Green Arrow number 13, which is the first Absolute Power tie-in. So you can get this right along with Absolute Power Ground Zero. And at the beginning of this issue is actually really nice because we see the Arrow family kind of sort of on a type of vacation on what I guess is Oliver Queen's private island. It says Arrow Island, so I'm assuming that he owns it. And they're just having a great time, and it's great to see the Arrow family together. But Oliver sneaks off in the middle of the night to go to the Hall of Order, which was previously the Hall of Justice, that Amanda Waller acquired and renamed it the Hall of Order, and she also acquired everything inside. But he's there to ensure that all of the stuff that's inside the Hall of Order that she acquired, he wants to make sure that it's all in safe hands, that it's not being misused or mistreated or anything like that. A little while later in the book, we see Roy and his daughter Leon go after somebody, attempt a breakout of someone who was really close to them, but they actually run into Oliver, who tries to stop them, and it seems like he is working under the orders of Amanda Waller. But we don't really know the background around that yet. We don't really know if he's... I think that maybe he's playing something like he's like a double agent or something. We don't know for sure yet, but I feel like maybe he's like undercover, and maybe what he's doing there might end up stopping her in the main story. We just don't know yet. But a really cool issue of Green Arrow. So if you're trying to get all the Absolute Power stuff, then definitely check this one out. So we have our A cover right here. We have this really cool Green Arrow and Black Canary cover by Terso Cons. They're really nice there. We have this really nice Pride variant featuring Connor Hawke, and this one is by A.L. Kaplan, who created a Circuit Breaker.
Yeah. Next for me, I've got Star Wars Darth Maul Black, White, and Red #3. This continues to be great. This has been one of my favorite Black, White, and blank series so far. This one is written by Erica Schultz and the art's by Leonard Kirk. It's called The Mission. In this, Maul gets sent on a mission to a far-off planet by Palpatine to get rid of a Deverarian man who... Maul can't quite figure out, why am I going after this guy on this backwater planet? Doesn't seem like he's done anything. It even seems like this guy was a criminal, but he's turning his life around. Mm-hmm. Like, he's like, yeah, I'm going to either turn myself in or I'm just going to start a new life. But Maul, this mostly focuses on Maul, like, should he question orders? Which, of course, you shouldn't when you're up against Palpatine. But he soon learns that there's a reason why his Lord Sidious wants this character dead, and maybe a reason that Senator Palpatine also wants this person dead. If you didn't know, those are the same people.
Oh, yeah, you don't say.
So,
spoilers, bro.
Why does both of them want this person dead? It's very cool and just great Darth Maul action. So, continues to be a great mini-series. And we've got a John Romita Jr. variant.
Well, I've got Spectacular Spider-Men, plural, #4. My favorite 616 Spider-Man book on the stands. In this one, we learn a little bit more about the Arcadium, who is behind it, who is bankrolling it, that kind of thing. We see a bit more of Peter and Miles in their fantasy lives that we saw them in all of last issue. And there's one part in Peter's life that's actually really kind of sad. Like, it really kind of got me here a little bit. And the solicitation mentioned that Peter and Miles go up against each other in this, and they do, but it doesn't quite happen the way it seems. So there's a little bit of a little bit of tomfoolery going on there. But just another great issue of Spectacular Spider-Man. Super fun, good action, good art. Peter and Miles together. I love this so much. So, if you're looking for a really good, fun Spider-Man book, this is the one to get. So that's our A cover right there. We have this really awesome Francesco variant. I'm pretty sure that's the one that I pre-ordered right there. We have this nice homage variant by Young, and it's Marvel Team Up. I want to say 65, the one with Spider-Man and Captain Britain. I don't quite remember the number though, but we have that one, and they have this 1 in 25 Wolf variant that we're selling for $29.99, kind of harkening back to issue 1 where Peter and Miles took on a big, like, hulked out jackal.
I don't remember him being that big, but he was big.
Yeah, he was swole for sure.
Lastly for me, I just want to show off this real quick. This is the Godzilla King of the Monsters Facsimile edition that is coming out this week. There is a regular cover, and then there's this foil cover as well, the original Marvel Godzilla series that, the rights were everywhere for so long, it couldn't get printed. There is a omnibus coming out now that has all of this in it, but if you want to get the facsimile with all the original ads and everything of the original first issue, grab this one, and if you want a little extra flair, get the foil.
Yeah, it looks great.
So really, really cool that this is finally coming out.
Well, we've got 3 more Blood Hunt tie-ins to talk about, and I'm just going to sort of speed run through those real quick just to sort of help you, or in the hopes that it will help you figure out which tie-ins you want to get. The first one is Vengeance of the Moon Knight, #6. Now, this one runs parallel to Blood Hunt #4, so I'll say if you get Blood Hunt #4 in any of these tie-ins this week, read Blood Hunt #4 first, and then read the tie-ins after that. This issue focuses on Reese and Soldier and 8 Ball. They're in the streets just trying to protect humans from the vampires, and they're determined to not leave anyone behind because they say that Moon Knight wouldn't leave anybody behind, and they want to carry on that legacy. I like this one. This is one of my favorite tie-ins so far. So just like the Avengers tie-in and the Fantastic Four tie-in, doesn't really play into the main story, but it was just a really good book, really good action, the art. So we have our A cover right there, and then we have a really nice Scotty Young Big Marvels variant right there. We also have Midnight Suns Blood Hunt number 2. And this one, the Midnight Suns are about to head to New York to try to deal with Blade, but they each have a dream about something terrible happening in a hospital in Chicago. So they decide to go there first, and they arrive just in time to save a nurse from a vampire. But not long after that, they have another confrontation. I don't want to tell you who that one is with, but I think it's going to lead them to an even bigger confrontation in the next issue. And it may kind of sort of play into the overall story. So we'll have to wait and see what the last issue of this is like. But just wanted to let you know that that is there as well. So that's our A cover. And we have this Declan Shalvey variant. And there is another Scotty Young Big Marvels variant right there, which is really cool. And then the last one is Union Jack the Ripper Blood Hunt number 2. And this one is definitely off on its own, not super important to the main story, just kind of showing what Union Jack is doing over in merry old England while all of this vampire craziness is going on. They are holed up in his hideout or in his base that they went to last issue. Union Jack saved this group of people from being attacked by vampires. They're in his base, but there's vampires in his base now, and they sort of have to defend themselves from that. And there's other weird little mysteries going on too. But yeah, just kind of off on its own, and doesn't really play into the main story too much. So there is our A cover right there, and then we also have this Philip Tan variant with Union Jack holding a big old sword, which looks really, really cool.
Well, I think that is it. It was a very big week.
Yes, it was.
A lot of heavy hitting books, especially if you're reading a lot of the big events like House of Brainiac and Blood Hunt.
Yep.
There is quite a few of those coming out. So hopefully you learned a little bit here about what to expect when you go to the store or when you head over to infinityflux.net and you do your little clickety-clack ordering. You got to
really go at those keys on the keyboard.
You can't do it until you hear the clickety-clack.
Right.
That's when you know you did it right. So hopefully you learned a little bit. Let us know in the comments, what are you most excited about? Because there's so many good things. I would highly recommend Zatanna. I thought that was so cool and just fresh, being a black label by itself, all of that. Just tons of great stuff this week.
And if you made it to the end, leave us some kind of animal emoji, because I was so blown away with all of those different wardens in Rook, all the different animals they had. There's too many to name, so just leave us an animal emoji of maybe a warden you would like to see. What animal.
Like to be.
That's right, yeah. That would be really cool.
So, until next time, because we've got a show coming up on Wednesday, we're going over the comics that you can pre-order before the weekend so you don't miss out on any of those. We'll see you next time.
See ya.